Granby and our leadership at this table offer our deepest condolences for the loss of our colleague and South Ward Alderman Joanne Lamp. We just, as a group, we offer our condolences, and we want family to know that our prayers, thoughts are with them all. That being said, the approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda as stated, written. All those in favor? 3-0. Approval of the minutes, July the 13th. Had a chance to read those.
I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July the 13th. All those in favor? 3-0. We have one guest here tonight, Rihanna Green. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Wanted to put in a cleaning business here in Granby. Asking for a business license.
Yes, sir.
Explain a little bit about what you do, or
I just want to do some residential cleaning to houses in Granby, just pretty much it, so.
for money.
Yeah, for money. No, for free. Gotta pay my bills somehow, right?
Well, I think there's obviously a need for that here.
Yeah, I've got
and
posted a little bit
commercial
about it.
also.
I don't know about commercial yet. I posted a little bit on the Granby page, and I've gotten a lot of feedback of people wanting residential cleaning, so it does seem to be a need in Granby.
I wasn't one of them. My wife was it.
I don't think so.
All right.
Why, do you need some help cleaning there?
Probably. Any other questions, council?
Oh, good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Rihanna.
Thank you so much.
Just pick up your license at City Hall.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I do want to say before we move on, we are.
Do you just need to vote on that?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was an FYI thing. All those in favor, I have a motion. I have a motion to allow her to have a business license.
I move that we allow.
Yeah,
her to
I second
have a
that.
license.
And a second? Okay. Bill made a motion. Pat, you seconded it?
Yes.
All those in favor? 3-0. All right, now moving on. I do want to say that City Hall is trying to make a few precautionary moves to try to eliminate the spread of the infamous coronavirus that's seeming like it's on the attack lately. Try to distance the best we can. We try to stay as sanitized the best we can, using common sense approach to this matter. There's been a lot that have been vaccinated. Some haven't been vaccinated. Right now, we're going to try to stay as separated as we possibly can in chamber, and then I would later on we'll talk about the possibility of moving to one meeting per month for that reason. But I just wanted to give you an update on why we're doing these things.
All right. Just let everyone know if it comes like it did before and there's a need for hand sanitizer, we've got an ample supply at the fire station of the personalized bottles.
Okay.
So
All right. We're going to make some of those available to the maybe the lobby.
there's several here that we can put out in the lobby too, and they're carrying the hand sanitizers, the little bottles.
There's the big bottle in the lobby.
Yeah, I mean,
Little
don't we
bottles.
have the
can
bottle?
put some of them.
Yeah, but you've got a case here, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can make some, as far as they'll go, we can make some available to general
Yes.
public in the lobby for general use. Okay. Let's look at the bills to pay and the balances on hand.
Just because I'm new at this, the First National Bank of Omaha, what is that? Like, I know what the bank is, but I mean, what's it for?
It's our credit card. Each department head has a credit card for their expenditures.
City Bank,
Yes.
we use that at like Fast Trip and such.
No, more so for, I don't know, Victor
Just an
needs parts
example.
that he needs to order online.
Anything Amazon.
Amazon, yes, so
Okay. That would be the.
places that we don't normally have, like Lowe's, we have a Lowe's card. Other places like that, but some we don't have an account, so they have to use their card.
Weekend emergencies, or city hall's not open, we get a PO.
Any other questions on those? If no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept those,
So moved.
bills to pay and balances on hand.
So moved. Second.
I got a motion and a second to okay, to pay the bills and to accept the balances on hand. All those in favor? 3-0. Okay, the number 2 is the resolution that would, move the, second meeting in the month, do away with it, at least, for a time or a season. It needs to be done by resolution. Basic resolution, in my thought, is a paper trail, knowing constantly what's going on, why it happened. I believe that we should take real good care of meeting together. If we can get the business of the city done in one meeting, that's great. If we need a alternate meeting time, we can have an emergency meeting or an extra meeting called, and we can take care of business that way. Any questions on this resolution?
If you have it on the first Tuesday, you're gonna have another meeting probably pretty soon.
I didn't ask for a comment. I was just asking the council if they had any input on this.
So people won't get to say.
I'm certainly not against it. With this COVID going on like it is and the business on hand, I don't see why we have to have two. And as you said, we can put in a special meeting anytime we want.
Yeah, when necessary, it's not undoable. Any other questions?
Or not the second Tuesday.
Carrie, would you read the resolution, please?
A resolution of the City of Granby, Missouri regarding a temporary change in dates and time of the city council meetings. Whereas the Board of Aldermen, together with Mayor Ira Hawkins, have determined that due to a rise in COVID-19 cases in Southwest Missouri, that minimizing the number of city council meetings is in the best interest of the citizens of the city of Granby. Whereas the Board of Aldermen, together with Mayor Ira Hawkins, have determined that holding one meeting per month on the first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. is in the best interest of the citizens of the city of Granby.
That should say second Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
Just make a note. Go ahead. Go ahead, finish.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Granby that all other resolutions in conflict herewith are hereby repealed.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept this resolution with the change being made that would be the second Tuesday instead of the first Tuesday.
would second that.
I've got a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? And all those in favor? 3-0.
Second Tuesday.
Resolution is accepted. Second Tuesday of the month. All right, the next is a discussion on the automatic, meter reading, apparatus. I was, in the Osho and I was watching them install this, apparatus on every one of their meters, and I thought, boy, what's the deal here? And then I talked to a friend of mine that basically was a part of the city meter reading group. He said, well, I'll tell you what, this sure made doing this a whole lot better and a lot more efficient. And so it eliminates the possibility of human error and a whole lot of personnel time. But I'd be open for a discussion. We're not gonna vote to do this or not do this. It's just open for discussion. Anybody wants to talk about this automatic meter reading process? These are the costs.
I had a few people asking me questions, such as, will the cost of installing this be passed on to the residents? They have a $17.50 meter fee on their gas right now and a $3 meter fee on their water. Will there be additional fees added, if we were to put something in place like this?
Our hopes and dreams is that this would be covered under some monies that Granby is allotted through the federal government that had to do with COVID. That they earmark for infrastructure, things like wastewater and water. We would hope that would take care of the cost of this. Plus, this would be absorbed in the cost of the new water system if we couldn't get this done any sooner, down the road some, when the new water system was approached and we began to be aggressive towards its installation. So I guess the answer to the question is, at this point, our hopes is always to never have to pass anything on to the customer if we can get enough money to take care of it. But there's always a chance that there's a part of anything, a new water system, a new sewer system, things like that, there may be a part that would have to be passed on to the customer. I don't know that. I think as a council, this group up here today would like to say, no, we'd like to not do that. But I can't reach into the future and see what that is. I know it's a big outfront cost, but I think down the road, a few years, it's begin to pay for itself in man hours and general efficiency. I don't know if that was a good answer to the question. I guess I don't know what the future could hold. I would try to not, but I can't say yes or no on that subject.
Currently, how many man hours do we use to read the meters per month?
About 48.
48?
We've got two guys that read, and it's 2.5 to 3 days, depending on the weather and conditions. Where this would be, if we went strictly automated, one person would be about an hour.
Okay. So 48 man hours per month, 2.5 to 3 days, and it
Yeah.
takes 2 guys to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I'm following.
Jimmy, this is what you do for a living, how you look at it, how you feel about it?
It's got a lot of benefits, Pat. It's really,
How much money we talking?
total of gas and water would probably be, the ones I got a few years back, and there's more people selling them now, so I think we can bargain and do better. Before we were looking at about a total of 300,000 for both.
Oh,
So what I have in front of me is just the water.
I think so.
No, we have water, it's 213,275, we have gas, 133,000.
Yeah, it's 300 for both, yeah.
Yeah, so how long will it take us to actually earn this money back without these man hours? Has that been calculated?
We, that's I mean, you're gonna have to figure in, cause it'll count for part of our loss. I think it'll find some loss, and, the customer will benefit. Like, if you have a water leak at your shop, it'll red flag and it'll come to whoever's computer is the base computer, and it'll say your address. If your water usage jumps overnight, it'll show, so we can contact you, say, hey, you got a water leak, something's going on, and stuff like that. Is a lot of everybody likes it for that fact, and stuff like that, but we've never sat down and, I know we're looking at, I think I figured probably around 12,000 just on two guys out of my department.
Per year? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
just
saying?
out of
So
that.
12,000 per year?
And then you take them, I don't know how many hours Terry has input on some of this stuff, but it will take that away from her to where
It really doesn't affect me much.
it should
All
just
it
go
takes-
straight from,
So does your guys input the numbers themselves? Is that
Yes.
when they do that? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's included in all that, so that's the only man hours that we're looking at right
Right.
here.
and then next thing, we get the snow and ice where we can't read,
Mhm.
there'll be no adjustments made. So,
The billing wouldn't change, the same, billings will be the same, this is gonna give the information.
right,
I think as a city, municipality of our size, you talk about, this 2,200 people, residents, probably, Jim, between 800 and 900, households?
yeah, probably 800, 850.
We're on that border of, we can kind of take a step ahead into like, some, future, looks at this in this respect, or we can kind of step back and still do it with the cards, we can even do it with the
Right.
pencil and paper, and that. I personally think that if we can find a way to pay this bill, that we should move the city forward into an automated system.
Like I said, I mean,
We'll move it into the future.
it'll save a lot of man hours on our part too, but to me, one of the biggest benefits is gonna be the customer, just like, Courtney, she had a screw up on her gas meter. Her gas bill last month was astronomical.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen with this. They would flag it, we would see she had a problem, and we can fix it right then.
We're talking a gas leak or just, there was an
No, it was
input
just-
problem, you just come in
It
and
was a
fix
meter
it?
problem.
Okay, which is no money lost on the city's end, but
No,
it is
but it
money
was-
lost if she's having to pay the bill?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, the way I'm figuring is at $300,000, if you're saving 12,000 per year, that takes 25 years to make up.
Yeah.
So your benefits are gonna have to outweigh that a little bit more. I'm not sure that, I mean, I love the idea of going automated if we had extra funds, but, right now we're looking at a hurting water system.
Well, I think the water system itself is gonna end up in the lap of, the city, because we'll end up, as soon as we get boots on the ground on our wastewater, we'll move over with a study that tells us where we need to be at a water system, but we're looking at a big project. And, when we talk about that big of a project, I think the automated part would be, in my opinion, a small part of that project. I do agree, you're looking at a long term, but what they're looking at is basically the accuracy of what's happening here. Not just the man hours involved, but the accuracy of what these do for you. And we've had, during times of ice storms, and we have meters that God knows, they're hard to get to. People stack lumber on top of them. They have dogs in the pen. They have everything under the sun that we have to deal with. Now, I realize that we should probably mitigate some of that. that was my view, and like I said, we're not ready to do anything yet, but we are in a discussing mode here, where we can talk this through and think about it more. I've contacted other municipalities that have put this through and just talked about it and said, what do you think, guys? What's your opinion? And they're basically the same. There's some that if they can do it, they will do it. If they can't, then they don't. That's
Never had anybody say they were disappointed
no,
in that.
nobody has said they were disappointed that put it in.
A new water meter, along water meter, gas meter both will lose, in a 10-year period, they'll lose 7 to 10% loss, which comes back on the city.
So that goes back to, that's what I'm saying, I just wanna see
Yeah,
more.
that comes back on us, it benefits the customer.
We should probably discuss even more, even down the road, where more savings would be and where we can invest.
And I've got people that could come in and we could do like a roundtable meeting, and they could explain the great benefits of it, where.
You're talking about the people that actually.
Yes, yes.
Put this out.
What about the software that would take to run it?
That's all part of it.
Who would be the one running it in the city?
It would be I think there was a way it read out, the
That's
software
what the-
company, that it goes directly to them.
But
So
do
then
you
it
have somebody
was-
that would be in-house that would know how to manipulate the,
Well, those
Yeah.
numbers would have to come in-house and.
Yeah, and then,
And then, from there goes to billing.
So what
I
you're
think
getting
we're
at
missing
is,
I think we're missing a step here, though.
Well, we would have to add, that's what this other quote is for our current software to be compatible.
right.
We'd have to upgrade it.
but is this a
$12.90.
yearly thing, or is it a?
No, I mean, there's gonna be updates, there's always gonna be updates on stuff, we pay updates on the software we have now, but, this is to
$12.90.
make it compatible so that those reads can come into our system.
The software costs $8.95 and the annual support fee is $3.95. Is that the way you see it? First time is $12.90. Next year it would come up $3.95. Is that the way y'all read this?
So that's our yearly.
Yearly $3.95. First time $12.90.
And like I said, there's several other vendors out there for this. We just pick, just to kind of get a ballpark.
Ira, as a customer of NewMac, they have that automated system. And last winter, when everybody was on Granby's Thoughts and Views griping about Empire or Liberty, whatever it's called now, and their electric bills were estimated, I knew what mine was gonna be. I could go online, I could look, and I could see what my usage was compared to last year, compared to last month. There were no surprises, and you can look at comparison tables, and I really like it.
Is this comparable with the electric automated system? Is this gas and water? I mean, can you receive information as a homeowner about what you're using and such through
That I don't know.
I don't know that either. Now,
That would be the
these
same.
questions I can
I'm
find out
sure
from a municipality that is using this. I can find out those questions.
Right. And I know some of the guys that's got it, that says they can sit down at their computer and tell you when, and know when you're taking a shower. They're that accurate in your water
Pretty
usage.
accurate.
Yeah.
300,000, huh?
It's gas and water. Yeah.
Take 25 minutes to take that.
Yeah.
it's none of your dad's business.
Is any other comments on this?
I think it'd be great if we could figure out a way to afford it. I think it'd be great.
We've talked about it for 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Has the price gone down?
Yes, considerably.
So maybe in 2 years it'd be cheaper?
I think even with different vendors, we can
Yeah.
get a better price.
I think it would be good to have that round table and understand it better.
And like I said, I believe one of them is Corn, Maine, isn't that who one of the bids are? He told me that, dude, I was getting something about the software or something, he said, you will get cheaper bids than mine. But that was just a,
Well, obviously you want something that was decent.
but he said, we do have people that'll come down and sit down with you, and he said, this is just a ballpark, something, cause we was just asking for a rough figure, so.
Well, I think we can, as a council, I think we can, toss this around and continue to look at numbers and benefits possibly. We'll weigh out the pros and cons on this project, and I think we can, as a group, come up with a sensible solution to this. I know there'll be those on board and those that don't quite want, it's just the way things happen. But we'll, I think if we wanted to introduce this to the public, this way, it's just an FYI, this is kind of the cost, and we can have a conversation about the savings or not, back and forth. Is that okay? Any other comments on this?
I'll see what I can do to get some more prices. And plus, I've got a conference the second week of August at the Boot Hill, and there'll be several vendors there for it, and I get pros and cons from the other operators too. But,
Well, I don't wanna, you really wanna be careful with something that's trying to come through cut rate,
right, yeah, oh yeah.
clamp at airlines.
But everybody, like I said, every one of them will tell me who's using their product, so I can call them and say, hey, you got any, are they treating you right?
Yeah,
So that's,
yeah. All right, let's move on. Engineers report, this was the report that was asked for, a couple months ago, about the property on Main Street, on the corner of the old hardware building. So I got an engineering group. This engineer was out of Omaha, and the engineering group is Joplin and North Arkansas, Olson. But anyhow, this report will be available to the public for review. It's kind of what it is. I've read it many times, and most of I think the council has read this, and you can interpret what you want to out of it. I wanted to make sure that the building wasn't ready to fall down, and according to this engineer, it is not ready to fall down.
Yeah. According to this engineer, this summer, or as late as this winter, it has to be supported or it will fall down.
Yeah,
That's the way I read it. And I've seen a lot of things on Facebook that says a lot of things that simply aren't true. This is the report. This engineer's got a stamp on it. It's all written. I see not much good about it. And the roof is holding up what's there now, and the roof's about gone. And that's in the report.
The way that I read this is that as long as the roof stays good, the walls stay good. When the roof completely lets go, then there is a possibility the walls could fall in. The roof is holding the walls. Is the way I read this, and the public will be more than happy to assess this on their own. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything ready to fall down today.
So you gonna spend another $3,500?
We haven't got a bill on this yet. Any other questions on this engineer's assessment?
Did he look at any of the other buildings while he was here?
No, specifically this one. There was another building that he was considering looking at, but that building on a visual, you could see it falling down. So he didn't want to just spend money by walking over there and saying this wall's falling down.
Mm-hmm.
The Scholes building is what we're talking about, and it's getting worse and worse. Anyhow, this is what he was looking at, was this building here on the hardware store on Main Street. Any other comments on this?
So are we done with it now? Like, final answer, you have the engineer
My-
report, we're done here.
He says keep people out of it.
Well, I don't think anybody's
The,
roaming around. If they are, they're not supposed to be there, so that's trespassing, so.
to answer your question, as
Mhm.
far as I'm concerned, it's done
Oh, very good.
by this report.
Okay. And there's no future, like, we don't have to call in a second or third opinion or phone a friend, right? We're done?
I don't plan on it.
Okay.
But anyhow, any other questions on that part? Okay, moving on. Discussion about zoning and building codes, which is a hot button subject for the city. I've got, activity both ways on this. I appreciate the input. The concern from the city was basically, in protecting properties that would be deemed commercial, converting over to residential. That was a concern of mine in bringing up the subject, and I know that, on this council, there's just, mixed views and opinions. I know that, just say the Highway 60 corridor, there's in the neighborhood of, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but in the neighborhood of 30 residential homes that are on 60 highway. And I've discussed this at length, and I feel like that a residential property should remain a residential property unless they purposely want to make it a commercial, sell it commercial. Their prerogative. They want to sell it residential, keep it residential, that's their own prerogative. But that was the input that I was gonna put in this. And, I'm open, guys. I know that, this is a touchy subject, and we wanna discuss this in a good, fair way. Granby doesn't have a lot of properties that are deemed commercial. If someone wanted to come in and do something actively in areas of commercial building, you say, well, I don't see that happening. Well, you may not see it today, but you may see it 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So my thought is, shouldn't we prepare for what's possibly to come? That's my view. I'd be open for the council's view on this, and I'll open it up to some questions from the audience. Council have anything?
I agree with you. If we have a residential property, it's grandfathered in. Once it goes commercial, it would stay commercial. The owner of that property, like on 60 Highway, for example, if someone had a home and wanted to sell it, and the buyer wanted it commercial, that could be done. But once it's made commercial, it can't go back to residential. That would be my thought. Planning and zoning is gonna take a long, long time. This is not an overnight decision. My idea would be form a committee. It's gonna take a long time. Have the public involved in it and hash it out and work it out. I think in the long term, it's gonna help Granby. It's gonna help Granby grow. Maybe we'll get a different, restaurant chain or something. Sometimes that's for complaint. We're stuck into a residential area. And a lot of people that, boy, listen, this has really created a lot of, and I'll use one guy for example, a good friend of mine. Jim Nance has a home up here and it's really sitting on 2 lots. Okay, his home is 1 lot from the highway and he's got a lot right on the highway. That to me would be a perfect example to say, okay, you wanna sell this house to a car dealer, you got a residential house right over here, you can make it commercial, it's right against the highway. As it is, it's residential. He would have the choice, because the house is off the road, That could stay residential, he could do commercial on the lot, on the highway side.
That guy sitting next to you is in the same situation.
Same situation, yeah,
Yeah.
same situation. So there's some things that can work out, but so much of this is gonna be up to the owner. It's not a, you're gonna do this. Now, once you make the change to commercial, you can't sell it for residential anymore.
You know, I've heard people say that the bigger places say that, well, they said they wouldn't come to Granby because there is no zoning and no,
That's, I've heard that too, yeah.
you know, just for that reason, so.
I've not heard of zoning being done that way though. Like, it's my understanding that when you zone a property, once it's sold is when that changes over.
It can be, yes.
So there's a way we can write it in there that they can still sell it, buy it and say, we don't.
Me? Yeah, that's why I'm here. I didn't just come to bring all this beauty to you, Jim.
That's what I figured. I figured you knew more about being,
I was really surprised. I went to visit with Amanda at her house, up on 60 Highway.
you surprised she's as smart as she is? Me too.
Yeah, she just blew my mind. No, there's one part of zoning that I did not know about, and that's refinance. So if you zone a property, let's say you have a residential home, and you zone it all for commercial. So if she sells her property, yeah, it becomes commercial. I knew that part, but I didn't know the part about refinancing. So let's say Amanda hits hard times, her house is paid off, she decides she needs to borrow some money against it. So that the whole commercial zone of it just changed the value of her home. We always say commercial property is worth more, however, it's the best use of the property, which was what Sally was trying to explain to us last time. So if she's got a residential home, her residential home is no longer worth the value of what it was before because it's not used in a commercial usage.
Amanda, do you mind coming up?
No.
Do you mind?
No.
Is there anything that basically had been brought out by me or Pat that made any sense towards the process? The residential?
Where I think the confusion occurs is when we say grandfathered in. Grandfathered in essentially means I own a house on 60. I can live in it, I can have it forever, I can will it to my child, he can live in it as a home forever. If that's zoned commercial, we're stuck with that joint forever. The house that I bought up there on 60 for $30,000 and have dumped piles of money into to repair and fix and make the community nicer, that now prices at 140, is not worth the 30 I paid for it because
But as long as
it's
it
best
stayed, but
use.
as long as it stayed residential, you're okay. Is that, am I right?
As long as my house appraises at what it should because it's a residence.
Yeah.
Whether I sell it in 3 years or whether I live in it until I die and my son lives in it until he dies and so on and so forth, that's all fine. I lose value regardless, with my other homes that are on 60.
Was your thoughts are, and correct me if I'm wrong, was your thoughts are that if you zone commercial, a certain portion of property, say you zone commercial, Highway 60 from the city limits to Main Street, everything is commercial. The part about being grandfathered in as a residential, you have the choice to stay residential from now on, or convert over to commercial, depending on who you thought might wanna buy that.
Right.
Is that good or bad, or?
I mean, it's terrible. Who wants to buy, what commercial business is gonna buy my less than 1 acre of land, pay to demolish my perfectly good house, to put what business in there on less than an acre of land?
But you would be okay if it just stayed residential?
Yeah, that's what it's been, and it can be
Well, I think
anything. I
that's
can
what
put a
we-
coffee shop in the front yard, which there is.
Well, I think that's what we wanna do, try to do.
That's not
Is
the way it's being
accommodate-
explained at all. The way it's being explained, when you discuss commercial zoning, you're talking about, I own it now, I have every right to live there until I die. And you're not going to, there's
Or
nothing.
sell.
No, because when I sell, I've lost my value now.
If you sell like to somebody else, they could stay residential. If
No,
they
that's-
make it commercial.
No. It's in the commercial zone, grandfathered in means I have right of use in its current and best use, that I had it before the zoning occurred, I'm grandfathered.
But once it changes hands.
Once it goes to commercial and I'm in a commercial zone, my residence, if I decide to sell, is commercial. And no one wants it on my little 3/4 of an acre with a perfectly good house that now is required by the city that there's a business there.
Well, I guess I'm missing something here, Amanda, because my thoughts are is that we're trying to accommodate the residential person to stay residential. In other words, that piece of property that's yours is residential, unless whoever you sold it to
It's actually not
decided.
residential right now, it's nothing, because you have no zone.
No.
So
But-
it's sold for no matter what. If we're talking about my car wash, or if we're talking about my house, the car wash is sold for its best use. It's a business. My house is sold for its best use. It's a house.
And that's what I want to
And
leave it.
everybody just lives their very best life.
So if you're giving the people the opportunity to choose, why would you zone?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Well,
because
that's-
we have that now anyway.
I think what we're looking at is like the old flea market property,
Yeah,
to keep, that is an ideal spot for business,
yeah.
to keep
I
somebody from
agree.
building houses there.
So
Now,
you're
they can
gonna
build
punish
houses
everybody that's
behind
lived
it.
here,
Yeah, build
and
houses on
everybody
that
that's
side.
been here
No, that, for
to
what,
save one piece of property that could be used for
I
business,
just-
and it's the only one on that stretch that could be used for
you know, the
business.
ones across the road from your place.
That lot across the street from me, the
Uh-huh.
big lot, the vacant lot, okay? So
And
you're
then
gonna punish
there's-
everybody for two pieces of property.
No, that's what
Well,
he's not,
some
that's not what he's
decided
wanting to
that we
do,
don't want
that's
residential
what,
there.
he's not understanding, and we need to sit and find some people that can explain, because there is a way that residential stays residential.
It's just residential, as long
Yeah.
as you want it to be residential.
But
And
I'm
that's
like,
the case right now.
Yeah.
And it costs $0 to do anything else.
Yeah.
$0 to the city, $0 to me, $0 to any other residents. Chip's Body Shop's gonna function the same way it has been. Car wash gonna function the same way it has been. $0. Everybody just keeps on keeping on,
And if it's left alone, the property right next to me can be sold either way.
either way.
Right now, yeah.
Mhm.
It's-
So-
It's like that now.
Yeah.
You're saying it's not broke, so don't fix it.
I'm saying to save what is only two pieces of property, because I'll agree with the spot across from me. And I definitely agree about Matt's big piece down there, the old flea market. Those two could be made and a real business would come, invest, buy it, fix it, clean up, do all the things that it takes to be a business. But you can't punish everybody else that's lived here. And you can't demolish my property values on all of my pieces, because they're all in that zone, because we wanna save two pieces. If you wanna do that, more than good. Zone that piece commercial, and zone the joint across the street from me commercial, because they're the only two places where there can even be commercial. Other than that, everything that I worked for, everything that my dad worked for on his little house, all that's for naught.
And if everything gets zoned commercial, then our taxes go up too, probably.
Taxes go up, insurance goes up, all of those things that nobody's thinking about.
Well, that's
That's
if
short
your-
term and long term.
That's if your property or Amanda's property is zoned commercial.
Yep, and if you're talking about putting a commercial zone there, that means my house and his house, not yours, but mine and his.
So you don't want zoning?
No, I'm not only zoning.
Okay.
but
No,
you
I
can't-
want everything that I work for to be what it's worth.
But you can zone specific property, like you could go,
Yeah,
say,
you
the
can
first 200
absolutely,
feet of Matt's property out there,
you can absolutely do that.
so that was,
But
And if you're gonna
but
do
if it's
something,
already
if
sold
we just-
either way, why even mess with
Right.
zoning?
Well,
Except for
wasn't
the
the
fact
flea
that-
market there anyway? Is it not zoned commercial at this point?
No,
We have no zoning.
Okay,
Well,
so-
see, the-
You can build houses on that business.
County does,
County does.
the deal with
Some.
that bill would be,
cause they got it all.
if you zone that first 200 feet,
Yeah, the county has some areas.
then somebody couldn't build houses there, and it'd
Yeah,
still be
then they
available
couldn't
for,
build a house.
yeah, it would still be available for business. If you zone like the certain properties, like, Blue Ant's place and like that.
I would be very cautious
In all
thinking one
honesty,
person's
Max
property
might be
focusing on.
zoned
I mean, that's
Because
also how
I'm
I
not a
see it.
citizen.
by the county,
Well, I
They
think,
can sue.
because there was a business there before.
As it is now, somebody can go into Tim's neighborhood and put a machine shop in next door to his house and have streaming machines that go all night long, and it would be legal.
That's
I
a
know, I
residential
understand, I have
zone.
trailers next door to me
But heck,
that are
next door
temporary, and I have a
to
coffee shop out in front of my house. I knew what I was getting into when I decided to buy here.
Yeah.
So if somebody puts up a strip club, that's just the price I pay. I knew what I was getting into.
And make money in Granby.
Well, like I said, I think there's about 30 properties that are basically residential properties from Main Street to city limit. That, I believe in anything that we do, they would have to be protected anything we possibly did. But every property owner has the ability to continue, that's going commercial, or excuse me, residential, until somebody decides to put a cafe in there, then it becomes residential or commercial. But until then, your property, isn't it maintain its value as residential for as long as it wants to?
Right, the
Like your-
problem, the
like
problem
your
would be with these talks going on, value decreases. I have a legal obligation, if I put my stuff for sale now, I have a legal obligation to say, hey, this is being considered.
But
If
this
you
property
knew,
is.
or if you thought, if you were interested in my house, and I have to legally tell you that, and my real estate agent has to legally tell you that because it's known, would you give me $150,000 for my house, knowing that 3 days after you bought it, you guys could make this decision and it goes to $20,000 piece?
I think not if our zoning was in writing and made part of, I guess, what would be ordinance, then it would be set. My
I would have
view
to see
here
that,
is
and I would take it to my attorney, and my
Right.
attorney's gonna have to see that.
My
because
view is I really
this
don't wanna
is-
punish, homeowners.
Right.
But I am concerned about the amount of commercial property that there is in our town, and that's part of the reason why I would like to see the city limits expanded to open up some more property. But what do you do with that property? How do you, I think it's something we need to continue to look at. I've drawn information from other communities and other towns. Everybody has their ins and outs of it. Amanda and I have had a conversation about this. It was good but active. I understand what's being said here. And I don't want residential customers to have to live under this burden of a town sneaking up behind them and then redoing their property assessment. And I don't know how to do that and get that
It
in
would be
writing.
their choice.
I would need to get,
It would be the owner's choice. If your property, for example, on the highway, if somebody wanted to buy it for residential, you can sell it for residential. They can't change and they can take that with them.
her fear is being hamstrung by the city later on and somebody sneaking up behind her with commercial activity.
If you commercially zone something, if you say this is a commercial zone, she can only sell it as commercial property. That's how she has to sell it. If you say this is a commercial zone, she has to sell it as commercial property. She can't sell it as residential.
You can't go to residential property and say you're commercial.
You can what?
You can't go to residential property and say you're commercial, right?
No, you can't. It's not very right of you,
Not if it's
and I don't know how
zoned.
you're gonna sleep about it.
I certainly
You
don't, I certainly
Kind of like
don't plan
in
on doing
residential
that. That's
high
not,
school, wasn't it?
Not doing it at all.
Yeah.
that's not the idea at all, is not to do that.
I would certainly hope not.
But on the same token, when you have residential areas, again, like where Tim lives, that's residential. That's all residential. That should not be commercial.
I don't know where Tim lives.
Well, he's not.
Or
not
by
on
the
the cemetery.
cemetery.
Oh, okay.
But in situations
Oh, if
like,
you wanna zone Tim's house residential, I don't think Tim cares. Tim lives there.
I
If you wanna zone my house residential, go ahead, it's a residence.
I think
don't care.
you need to look in, county has some of it already zoned on it. My property down here on Main Street is commercial by Newton County,
right, you're paying.
which I'm thinking Matt's probably
I do too.
is all zoned commercial already because it was a flea market and a business there.
Yeah,
I think our shop is, Kelsey's building.
yeah, it's commercial, yeah.
But the county
But
itself,
Amanda's is not.
no.
No.
Her
Residential.
property and the two small houses.
Now, I would
Car
say,
wash, I guess, is
Car washes is no zone.
just nothing.
Mhm.
and I wouldn't be surprised if the apartments next to you might not be, because it was, in the grocery store forever, and then the cabinet shop.
I don't know about them. All I checked was my stuff, and none of mine is zoned commercial anything. It's just, there's no zone.
But there is zone right here in Main Street.
Are we saying it's zoned, or are we just paying the commercial taxes? Cause that's what
I
Ron was
think
talking
that's,
about last
I think
time.
that's
I think
what
it's
we're
the
talking
tax,
about,
yeah.
commercial
They've
tax.
assessed us as commercial. my buildings are all commercial. Hey, but I don't know that I'm in a commercial zone. I could move into one of my buildings and live there if I felt like it.
Okay, that's the next question, I guess. If we move off of 60 and move on to Main Street, what's to be done? I mean, can we just basically have apartments all the way up and down the street? Is there a point in which we can force business to just not be in Granby? There's just nothing available. Can that become a possibility?
That businesses can't come because
Well, what I
there's
mean,
nothing available?
right,
No
this is
space.
full of,
Yeah.
it's full of apartments and downstairs, upstairs, everywhere. And a person wanting to put in a whatever, they just cannot find a spot.
I mean, Matt's Place is for sale up there,
Yeah.
that place across the street from me, they're not interested in selling, but, Matt's Place is for sale, it's been for sale. So.
But like on
it's
Main
possibly
Street.
found. On Main
Aren't
Street,
there
I believe
apartments
there's
in the
spots.
buildings on this Main Street?
Yeah.
Above the businesses? There's
There
apartments
are
there.
residents
So-
up there, and then there's a business down below. Well, as a city government, should we, make a, business only on the lower floor?
How does Neosho handle that? You know,
I
the
don't
square
know.
over there,
Square,
square.
so-
I've tried,
apartments.
yeah, I've tried to
Lives on
read
the
that.
square of the big
I've tried to read
building.
that zoning thing in the Neosho, and I just got gobbled up.
There's zoned on, I can tell you about the Neosho Square with you, you're talking about places with, same as here with the apartments
Yeah.
above like a tavern there and
Yeah.
stuff. So they're zoned that best use. Those places up there that are apartments have always been apartments. What business are you gonna put in up there without destructing a home? And the bottom has always been businesses where the bar and the lawyer's office and all those things are. And so it's written in their codes that residences are on top and can only be for best use, and businesses are best use bottom. And businesses pay their commercial tax, and the property owners that have the places above, that rent the entire building, they pay a residency tax for the places that they have on top.
On the square footage on top.
Yeah.
So they already have it worked out.
Neosho? Yeah.
What about our county assessor? Would he be able to give us that information?
Yeah, I think that's where you would, yeah, I think that's where you'd find out some information on this. But we could talk about, you know, what property is commercial, what property, and obviously your car wash is commercial, obviously these cafe is and whatever. And my buildings, even though we have a church in one, it's commercial. It's a commercial property. Because I guess they deemed it commercial on Main Street.
Part of the problem with, on Amanda's, unless it has been changed, she's got a house and an apartment on the same property as the car wash.
Mhm.
So he would have to go basically to the expense of separating the properties.
Surveyed now.
Yeah, to deem the house and the apartment residential. And
So your car wash is not commercial?
No,
Just,
it's actually on the same deed with the two houses back there,
I see.
and 2 lots behind that I could build on as well, with meters and utilities running to them. Which was part of the reason I bought it.
Any other questions? Thanks for your.
So you don't see
Pretty
no,
good.
you
Amanda's
don't
is
see
two
no
or three lots
advantage
back there.
to zoning
Great.
at all? You
Thanks,
don't
Amanda.
see
Yep.
advantage to zoning at all?
What's that?
You don't see any advantage at all to zoning at all, then, do you?
No, I think all that does is punish the homeowners, and a lot of them have lived here a very long time and are very vested in those places. And I believe that it punishes the homeowners, and the businesses are operating as businesses anyway, so I don't understand the point
Thank you.
or the cost.
Anybody else, a comment on that?
I like the residential zone.
pardon?
Yeah.
I think we do need to have residential zoning.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing with Old True, just like I said, somebody put a machine shop in next door to you, there's nothing the city can do about it, keep you up all night. So, yeah, there is a place for zoning, folks.
So you would allow individual property owners to go ahead and ask for, I want my house zoned, but, I mean, if you want it zoned, fine, but what if your neighbor doesn't want it zoned at all? what then?
Well, that's a slippery slope,
That's
because
protective homeowners.
in any, zoning approach, there's gonna be some that you're gonna miss, and then some that, you know, like I say, I've talked to a large group, because I know where this is going. The consensus with some business people is that short term, it's gonna maybe look a little ugly. Long term, it's gonna benefit Granby. And, so that's my view on it. My part that I wanna emphasize is it should be our desire to, however we can do it, protect the resident that has been on, I wanna say 60 highway most of their life. And that's where they live. If they tore the house down, build another one, it'd be residential, they could sell it residential, they could be another 400 or 500 years of residential. Unless they decided that this person wanted to put a, whatever, commercial business in there. Well, when you sold it to him, I guess you stepped out of the picture, and he owns it now, he can do what he wants to. But then it would stay commercial. If that can be wrote into the language, I'm not sure why that would, be hurtful to the residential person.
But if it is, they would, of course, end up being able to go ahead and file a lawsuit. And essentially, you'd end up having various lawsuits. Also, depending on whether or not you obeyed, in other cases, your own law, if you haven't, then that would go ahead and be said unequal application of, your zoning laws or anything like that here. In short, that woman there, I think she knows her own business. She doesn't want zoning. A lot of people don't want zoning. If Tim wants zoning around his house, well, let him have zoning for his house. But in any case, it seems to me that you're just going ahead and building up needless litigation.
Well,
I'm interested to hear if that process that you're describing right now is possible, because I've never heard of that. And that to me does actually save a homeowner. It all depends on whether that process can really be something that you can put in place, because that does make sense.
Yeah.
If someone steps in and says, just like the gentleman redoing the house up there, he's redoing it for commercial use. WH Cafe has said that they wanna move into it. Well, at that point, it's turned into commercial. It's not gonna hurt a homeowner or anything, cause he's the one doing it right now. He's made that decision on his own. So I would be interested in knowing if that is a possibility to do something
I
like
think
that.
I would too, because I'm not completely sure.
I've never heard of it, but that doesn't mean it's not. I mean, it's just something that no one's ever really brought up. I mean, we've done dual zoning and talked about that, but not necessarily.
It's probably something that we should, at least investigate
Yeah.
for, the next conversation. Is that okay? Can we, put that, at least,
Sure.
stop that right there?
Sure.
Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say?
Mayor,
Jacob?
when I was the chief over at Portland, they had zoning. Set in several of they had a zoning commission, it was a committee that established the zoning rules. And they had maps of the city, every piece of property was zoned based on what they wanted it to be. The main corridors were usually business, there was some residents on there, and they were zone residents. While it wasn't common, it did sometimes happen where people would come in and request what was called a variance, which means they want to change what it's zoned as. We had one that was a grocery, it was an old grocery store that was in the middle of the residential town. It had been zoned commercial for 20 years. Some people bought it, wanted to turn it into a home. They had to come in and request a variance to change that to residential, which wasn't a problem. All they had to do was vote on it and it was changed. So it's not a complicated process. It can be done, however the city wants to establish the rules to do it.
That's similar to what I'm thinking of. I think you're right. It's just like, Amanda, what you have is yours. Nobody has the right to come in and say, hey, you've got to do this or you've got to do that, but you have an option to.
The idea is it will eventually encourage the business corridors to be
That's right.
commercial and the residentials to be residential over time.
And it could be a a long time. Just,
Well, it's not easy, cause we've been over 100 years without it, you know, that's the way it works, it takes a long time to put something like that together, but I think it would benefit in time.
well, I appreciate the input, guys, in this, and I'm enlightened on some different ideas, some things, but I appreciate the input. Can we leave that right there and bring the subject up again at a later date with some more information? I would make a motion to table the conversation on zoning to another time.
So moved.
Got a motion? I got a motion, a second, to just table this to another time after more, investigation into the, process. All those in favor? 3-0. Thanks, guys, for your input. All right, discussion on decorative lights. I've had discussions on these before.
Ooh, buddy.
Okay, let me explain to you what's happening. There was 2 decorative lights. If you'll notice on the side of the gym, there's decorative sconces, okay? There was 2 decorative sconces bought for the canopy where the senior center is gonna be, but when you get those lights down low, they're just enormous, and they're just right in the way. People can slap them and what have you. The same thing happened on the pavilion, so we're gonna put them on poles, get them up about 10 foot in the air, okay? So we brought those down. So the discussion is what to do with those other 2 sconces, decorative sconces. Many different ideas have been floating around, and I just wanted to basically, this doesn't require a vote, but put this before the council and the public. One idea was to put them up on the city hall up above the canopy on both sides. There was another idea on getting poles like we're getting for the bandstand and putting them on poles and putting them in some other areas. Does anybody have any idea? I know this is just brought up, and you may need to think on this a little bit, but those big lights are better if they're up higher than being down low.
Originally, they were supposed to be a couple in the park itself.
There are already a sign for that.
A sign for that,
Yeah.
okay. How
These
many-
were the ones that were gonna go on the edge of the canopy. And when they're on the edge of the canopy, they ain't that far off the ground.
Yeah, they should have smaller ones.
Where are the ones gonna be located in the 2 to 10 park?
Well, there's one that's over by the community building in that little short grass area, and then one, ways away from it.
Well, what I was wondering, because there's been several different times there's been discussion about a monument for the veterans here. Could we figure out where that could possibly be and put one in that area? Or one down there by where the sign's at now? Well, there's a street light right there.
Well, that was a concern of mine, and I was standing out here in the dark.
And we've
one
got
time,
a street light on 2
And
corners
if
of it.
these lights come on, the street lights will go off, I think. And vice versa, one will just fight against the other. So it needs to be in a spot that doesn't really
Yeah,
have a
that's,
street
we've
light.
got street lights on 2 corners of the park.
So I'm just open for ideas on this. Like I said, the only one, the lighting guy, Mr.
Gillian.
Killian, he just suggested up on this building, or any building really, that's up higher where you can see them as you're driving down Main Street.
What about on the ends of the pavilion, like on the end, up high on the ends of this pavilion area? We don't have anything.
Well, no, but they're just not very high. They need to be on some poles. And like I said, the 2 that was on the pavilion, they had them mounted there, and I bet they weren't 5 foot off the ground. You could
Were they
slap
on the
them with
rock
your
or were they
hand.
up high in the wood part?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Pardon me?
Were they on the rock part, is that what you're saying? Or
Yes.
was it up high, like on where the eaves are of the building?
No,
Up
they
there
weren't
in
up,
the
they
wood.
weren't up there.
That's just another suggestion. I like the pole
In
idea
each eve, you like the poles. And so these poles that we just had to pay a little extra, but they're mounted in the cement, and then they come up like 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah.
And then that sconce is mounted to it, and it could overhang anywhere we thought, there was like a dark spot. But you can't really put them right under a street light, but they'll just fight against each other on the automatic on and off.
Is there a street light on the pole on the east end of the community building that's in kind of in that flower bed area?
Yeah, on that, there is one on that wooden pole right
That's,
there.
I can remember, that's, I searched it, that would be a good area, if not.
But I'm thinking about something that you're gonna see as you kinda come down Main Street or, and the other thought was, can they be incorporated in somehow into Dick Smith Park? You just have to find power. I'm just open for ideas.
Do we need it for lighting over here?
Well, I hate to not use them because we purchased them.
Well, sure, but I mean, you
Oh,
refer
over
to
in this
maybe-
area?
You refer to maybe Dick Smith Park, something like that, but if we need the lighting over here, we can certainly find a place to put it.
Well, see, there is lighting, that goes up and down Main Street, that comes on at night. And I don't know this for a fact, but I assume that when the lights come on, these would go off because of the motion, or the sensors.
Okay.
I can ask the lighting specialist about that. He's the one that suggested here. Do we yay, or do we not like the idea of them being up on either side of this building?
On this building, cause you're talking about in the future moving to a different building, the police
Well,
station.
that was our,
And I'd hate to see
an idea.
them fall into someone else's hands, if you wanna word it that way.
You also need to look at what money's purchasing this. This is a TIF purchase. TIF was designated to specific things. You cannot
Yeah.
put it on a city building.
So I'm open for any possible other idea.
Could I make a suggestion, maybe making a committee, or the TIF committee, or somebody meeting at nighttime and come out here and look it over? And see what the best
Well, I'd
options are.
certainly be open for it. Like I say, they're sconces, and they'll probably have to be put on poles unless you can find a high spot.
Well, I like the idea of the poles, that's originally what the look we wanted anyway.
You keep it again in the park.
I would like to keep it in the park. But that's just me,
Well, it's a good idea.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we really wanna address that, we're trying to bring out the fact that it's a veterans park, and we're talking about, you know, doing a flag on the building, there's other things that we're talking about, trying to build it up and make it more of a draw for people to come and look at the monument they're talking about putting in and things like that. And I like the idea, Jim, had, maybe if we could figure out where the monument's gonna be, then putting a light to, you know, show it at nighttime would be wonderful.
Any other ideas, Martin?
So where are these decorative sconces at? On the east side of the building or what?
Well, the ones that's mounted right now are on the south side of the gym, entrance to the gym. And these that we're talking about look just like them.
And they, you know, this gym was built in 1934, and you don't worry about people vandalizing them, in other words?
Well, they're up higher, so hopefully nobody will go after them with a bat or something. I mean, it's something you gotta look at, but, mainly we just, and there may be another spot or two on these buildings that would work.
Are you gonna have any lights on the east side of the gym then?
Actually, there is just a street light over on the east side, but then you lose the value of the look coming in to Granby in the park.
There's one of the pole lights I thought was also supposed to be, like as you pull into the park off of this street here, to your left in the grassy area, there was supposed to have been one there, I thought. And then one up, like by the building in that grassy area you talked about. And then one more on down from There's supposed to be two in the park on the entrance there.
Does the TIF group have like a drawing where they're planning these
They
things
did
out?
have, I don't know if they still do. I know.
Now Sean had one.
Well, we'd have to.
You had a whole book with his ideas
Yeah,
in it.
just have to dig it out, I'm sure there is, or he could even, email us, what that drawing is. So at this point, we think we need to draw a few more people into this conversation that could take a look and a better look. So anybody can come down here at night and take a look at it and get on Facebook. God forbid, you know, that. Anyhow, any other comments about those two sconces? All right, we'll move away from that. We need to designate another check signer because of, our loss. And I would suggest that Bill do it as the mayor pro tem. Any other questions or anything on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to make Bill the check signer.
Second?
I got a motion second to make Bill, you okay with that, Bill? Check signer. I guess I should have asked. Sorry.
And did they tell you about your account information being on there too?
All those in favor before he backs out? 2-0. Bill abstaining.
Just saying, Bill, don't worry about it.
All right. That's all I have. I'd be open to it, somebody dismiss.
Move to dismiss.
Motion a second to dismiss. All those in favor? 3-0. We are dismissed at 7:12.